Welcome to the High Fae Housewives. I'm Blakely.
And I'm Kylie.
We are currently working towards our Masters in the Maasverse. Our current course is focused on Crescent City, House of Flame and Shadow by Sarah Janet Maas. Today, we're chatting chaps 9 through 16.
So, cut you off. I had
know
scrolled
this.
up past your stuff. And so, because I scrolled past it, you didn't have words anymore. You were done
You're
because
like,
I couldn't see them. I'm sorry.
It's fine. I'll forgive you.
Warning, while we may be your silly gal pals, we don't recommend listening to this podcast around little ears or ears that may be offended because we say bad words and shitty things. Now relax those shoulders, unclench those jaws, clench that clam, and let's get into it.
Chapter 9. Besta was tunnel traveling for hours. Nesta was smart and brought foods because she had a feeling she'd be chasing Bryce for a while. Plus, they don't know these caves. They got to a fork in the caves, and her Starlight seemed really into art history and wanting to go down a certain path. Bryce tried warning Nesta to stop, which turned into Nesta putting a sword against Bryce's throat. Bryce tried to explain that she studies ancient artwork, and those carvings are trying to warn them, so maybe don't go that way. Nesta's blade throbbing against her skin. Curious. Icy metal. Like hell would she freeze again. I wonder why Bryce was such a reaction to it.
Yeah, a blade throbbing against her skin.
Be mature. Stop it.
Never.
One of the carvings showed Celine and told a story. Lots of corpses, dark beasts, and holes in people's bodies. That's what she said. It was cute. Bryce says they need something to trick the mechanism, so Nesta sat her cold silver flame to disarm all the traps and turn them to ash. While having a girl dinner, Nesta asked if her star always glows like that, and Bryce said, nay, but it does down here, and she wants to figure out what it's leading her towards. Nesta says, yet again, that they don't know these tunnels. Rhys didn't even know they existed. She also wanted to know why she didn't let her get impaled earlier. Bryce was like, girl, I have no reason to want you dead. Nesta was like, weird, why did you escape? Bryce tells her she isn't a dum-dum and knows how interrogations end. Noises could be heard off in the distance, and when Bryce asks what it is, Nesta just says, shadows. Nesta's eyes gleamed like a cat in the dimness, and earlier, Nesta blinked, head angling more feline than fae. Just thought it was interesting.
What are you trying to say? Nesta's from hell?
Maybe. She acts like it.
I love her.
I know. She's our death god. It's fine.
So Bryce says, and Rhysand is your king. And Nesta snorted. He'd like to be, but no, he's the High Lord of the Night Court. All this is post Silver Flame. Her and Rhys are in a better place. Like, why would she make this comment? Do you think it's because they don't see eye to eye, or because Nesta has a tie to the void?
Yeah, I think that's a possibility. I think they both have void ties, and maybe they're connected to different sides of void spawn. So it's like ingrained in them to want to fight each other. Also, they're both alpha energy, and they just aren't interested in getting along.
Do you think they'll ever get along?
I think Nesta and Rhys will be good allies. Like, I could see their powers coming together and defeating whatever they need to and working together. But we need people not getting along in a story. Otherwise, it's boring. So it's just like, I'm fine with their obvious distaste for each other.
They're cordial.
Because, yeah. And I think it'll get better because of Nyx will help. But yeah. Nesta sees the worst in Rhys. And you could make the case that Rhys might see the worst in Nesta. But Rhys has said multiple times he doesn't want to be High King, specifically to Amren. Why do you want me to be Conqueror? And Amren says, why do you deny your birthright? Which Kylie and I, we cannot wait to talk about that line. But like, yeah, I think Nesta and Rhys see the worst in each other.
And I don't know that they can ever truly like move past it.
No.
I get Nesta. Like she'll forgive, but she will not forget. And I feel like Rhys is really similar.
Yeah, because especially with Rhys, because of how Nesta treated Feyre. And I think Feyre is able to get past, well, one, it's her sister for Nesta, but also I think it's like chapter 1 or 2 of ACOTAR, Feyre even says Nesta and I are two sides of the same coin. Like they're actually more alike. Just Nesta has a more self-hatred.
Elaine is the weirdo. That's a one-off.
I mean, if you're going to ask me who I want to hang out with out of the three of them, I would pick Feyre or Nesta over Elaine any day.
I mean, it depends on my mood. If I want to garden, I'm going to call Elaine because, I love that shit. If I want to just exist and be a bitch, I'm calling Nesta.
I mean, I feel like Elaine probably makes a mean sourdough. So if she's going to feed me bread, I'll take it.
Chapter 10. Flynn and Deck have their guns out, and no, they are not suntanning their muscles. They have loaded weapons pointed at who they think is Rigelus's hind. Tharion turns on his charm to defuse the situation. After Siggy was dismissed from the combo and shut the door, the hind started talking. It said the hind's golden eyes swept over the female wolf. Her nostrils flared delicately. I think, she murmured quietly, the better question is, who are you? And Sarah Janet is constantly reminding us of her witch heritage, constantly when Lydia herself doesn't honor it.
True.
The hind tells them that Ruhn, Hottie Hunt, and Baxi Boy are alive, and he is also involved in their shenanigans, but is unclear on Bryce's sitch. Everyone is confused about what she has to do with all of this. She's like, long story, but I know you guys are hackers, so can you help a sister out? He's like, our track record is not great. But the hind lets them know that the self-appointed king of the celestial dorks knew that they were coming thanks to Celestina. She then drops who she is, Agent Daybright. No one believes her, though. The hind loses her shit a little and tells Flynn she will destroy him if he does not help her. That is mate behavior.
Truly. So in this, it says a flash and Cormac was dead. But was he? I keep thinking about this and your theory about the 13 and yielding in general. So I looked up flashes of light in the Bible because why wouldn't I? Divine presence, flashes of light are often associated with God's presence, as seen in Ezekiel's vision of God's glory, where the living creature appears like burning coals of fire or torches with lightning flashes out of them. For you Bible study gals, Ezekiel 1-13. Then I was like, okay, what about yielding in the Bible? The term yielding in biblical text embodies themes of surrender, obedience, and humility before God. It represents a voluntary act of submission to God's authority and a willingness to relinquish personal desires in favor of His will. This concept is deeply rooted in the Christian faith, highlighting the importance of trusting in God rather than relying solely on one's understanding or desires. And I really do think it's possible that one yields, the flash of light happens, because of the divine presence, and then because they chose to sacrifice themselves and yield, there could be some type of reincarnation, which we get into later in the episode, or even just they're rewarded by almost a new life in a different realm. BRB, we talk about this.
It is so hard not to, I'm going to say it anyways, to talk about the sun priests that immolated themselves. So I can't wait to get further into this, and I love that you shared this.
I like to give you my Bible knowledge.
The hind is not done, though. She goes off and lets them know that she helped them summon the depth charger. She tells them to get their loved ones into hiding, but Declan is the only one buying what she's saying. They question her more of why. She tells them that Baxian is valuable to everyone for his skills, Hunt is valuable to Bryce, and Ruhn is valuable to her. They have 2 days, and then she gives them white stones to summon the depth charger. But don't worry, the hind is still not done. She asks the sprites about Arithis and if she is trustworthy. They tell her that she is honor itself. The hind repays them with she is with the Asteri at her palace, and the sprites are pissed she doesn't give them more info. The hind parts with Ruhn and Athalar are in danger of being 86, and it all depends on how it'll affect Bryce. So be at the dock to summon the depth charger in 2 days' time. She's boss bitch right now. No, she's bitch boss.
Yeah, she's bitch boss, for
sure.
Mm-hmm.
The hind said, I know you don't trust me. I don't blame you. That you don't tells me I've done my job very well. But, and I want a fucking Hind novella. Like, I need her backstory. Like, was she always good? If not, when was there a shift? Did she have a secret relationship with her mother? Like, tell me about her dad. Like, she's fucking fascinating.
I would love that. I also just want to say that it is proof that women are so much better at being detectives and figuring shit out because men are fucking stupid. The Hind literally says, Ruhn is important to me, and they just don't even think about it. They don't say anything. Why? Why is Ruhn important to her?
Well, Declan was on board with asking questions, at least. Like, but I think it's because he smelled her or Rune's scent
Yeah.
entwined with her, and he's the only one that like uses his noggin.
But they just don't talk about anything. It's just so stupid. Men are so dumb.
Like, communicate better.
They
Find
just
out whether or not someone's married based on the deed to their house that you found online. You know,
Mhm,
be better.
be better. Chapter 11. Bryce and Nesta continue their cave exploration. Bryce's art history major really came in handy when looking at all the carvings on the walls. So take that, all those liberal arts major haters. They get to a river, and Nesta was like, hey, let's winnow. But Bryce tells her she's out of power. But her star let her know it was the way. So Bryce jumped in. Let's chit chat about the art. We know that Celine carved this herself, and we'll get into that next episode. But I just want to highlight some things. First off, this was the last time there was a High Lady. Now we know in ACOTAR there's a new High Lady in town. We know Rhys is a descendant of them. And it makes you wonder. I keep thinking of that line that Amryn says about all the major players coming back. And I feel like there's going to be a bumpy ride in the ACOTAR world. Like, I just feel like shit is really going to get down.
What if Rhys and Feyre are reincarnated Thea and
And Fionn, right?
what if?
Those two seem to actually love each other, though. But maybe it's like a prophecy sitch. Like, these guys are going to be the ones that have to get it done.
Or what's his butt? What's his butt? Rhys is reincarnated Atis.
Rhys definitely's got some dog in him.
I mean, because they always talk about like souls finding each other in another life. Like, what if? What if it is the second coming of Thea and Atis? Maybe third and fourth too. Who's to say? Good for them. Stay busy.
Nesta was not impressed that Bryce jumped in. It was a struggle to swim to the pool that the star told them to go to. Nesta let her know that they could have gotten there without getting wet. That's what she said. And told Az to come out. That's also what she said. So, all those Az and Eris shippers. There it is. The boys were not doing well in the dungeons, 0 out of 5 stars, and Ruhn was being a fucktard and refused to ask Lydia for help. But he had a plan.
Ruhn refusing to ask the Hind for help, just saying another way. Like, I love him, but weird choice. Like, what are your fucking options, guy?
Like, you're that stubborn? He's just fucking dumb. It makes no sense.
Obviously, he's got a kink about like getting his hand chewed off, and so he really wanted to stay.
Gross.
That's the only thing I can think of, because why the fuck would you not ask for help from the one person that could help you?
Well, and especially, it's not all about you. Like, you have 2 other people that need to hopefully get out of here as well. And Ruhn's like, no, not gonna do it. Like, what?
You're somewhat of sound mind to like make that decision. I understand that you're being tortured, and so you may not be thinking clearly, but like, I don't understand. Like, there's no desperation for help.
Yeah, like, no self-preservation. You're just like,
Like,
rather be stubborn.
you lied to me.
Shut up.
Whiny bitch.
Stupid
He
idiot.
hung out with Ethan way too much, and
You're
it rubbed off on him.
It all comes back to Ethan for sure.
Fucking that little bitch.
Such a bitch.
Love
I-
Tharion, but he makes terrible choices in this book.
This book is a hard read when it comes to Tharion. He hung out with Ethan too much.
Exactly. Ethan's a terrible influence. He's not the alpha we want. He's not the alpha we need. Like, he needs to just fuck right off. Chapter 12. Azriel, who is a big fan of why waste time, say a lot of word when few word do trick, says yes to Bryce's questions of him being there the whole time and his shadows against her starlight. He was essentially backup while Nesta was curious about what Baby Boo was going to do. Shout out to Nesta Silver Flame for continuing to disarm more carvings on their journey.
Did you have a whole one of your drinks before you wrote that, or?
You know, I do think I had an edible drink when I wrote that.
I can usually tell.
Nesta was curious about what Baby Boo was going to do.
Yeah.
So Nesta's Silver Flame here is super interesting. Not only her control and confidence over powers at this point, but it made me think about how much power she potentially has. In chapter 70 of A Court of Silver Flame, Nesta said, I gave it back to the cauldron in exchange for the knowledge of how to save them. But a little remains. I think someone else, stopped the cauldron from taking all of it, and I made some changes of my own. The mother, the only being who would see the sacrifice Nesta had made and gave a little back. Perhaps it was she who had peered out at them through the mask. Going back to what I said last episode about Cormac and my rogue theory on the 13 and what happens after you perform the yielding, it seems intentions matter. Intention of who they are honoring in their action, which made me think about those radical sun priests who immolated themselves to be closer to Solus. Does Solus truly honor them with reincarnation of some sort? And then back to Nesta's Silver Flames. If the mother stopped the cauldron from taking all of its power back, does Nesta have a special connection to the void because of it? And why would the mother stop the cauldron? Does she have a special connection to the mother previously? Reminder that the mother is a face of the three-faced goddess who witches honor. And are the cauldron and mother one? Isn't that the question of all questions?
I mean, I believe they are, and I think you do too. I mentioned in our coverage of House, Sky, and Breath, when Napoleon is giving us his family tree lore, he tells us about Chaos, who is the Void's bride. Napoleon calls her his dam, which means mother. So I believe they are, in fact, the same. The mother, Chaos, and the cauldron. And we also talked about adding word and erd to the mix because, like we learned in A House of Sky and Breath, the old beliefs were a time when the Erd was not a goddess, but a force winding between the worlds. When she was a vat of life, a mother to all, a secret language, and a universe.
And what else is a vat?
A cauldron!
Bryce sees Azriel's ears and starts asking questions about their magical people situation. Nesta fills her in with humans, fae, and within there, high fae and lesser fae, and people who are just Ilrian. Nesta's lips are just loosey-goosey, and she is answering away. Weird shit's happening. Bryce's ears hollow out with a dull thump sounding once, her hand shifting towards the star sword and truth teller while Azriel's wings twitch.
Oh, reminder in the last book, Rhysand was talking about his brethren, the Daglin, created Illyrians to be their army, and then Rhysand said they took the idea, made modifications, and created the angels of the CC world. So, Illyrians truly are just one of one.
You kill me with Rhysand. I cannot support that nickname.
Rhysand. It's like, instead of Roger, you say Raj. So it's like Rhysand.
You're on your own.
I might keep doing it.
The star leads them through Middengard Wyrm tunnels, which still have bones, so they are on alert. Bryce, that clumsy gal, trips on a rock, bloodying her hands when she falls. When Azriel tells her to watch her footing, the swords start being weird again. And then when Bryce gets up, she gets her blood all over Art. The audacity. Azriel points out after a siesta that her hands weren't healing, and that's weird. Bryce is like, maybe my magic is weird here. Azriel's really curious why specifically her hands aren't healing. Bryce switches the subject to Azriel's scars on his fingers. Queen of transitions, truly. She tells him her brother has similar ones and that they have a nice little moment trauma bonding. And Bryce asks about the Daglin, and Nesta says she slew Lanthus, who was Asteri adjacent, but wouldn't say how. They get chit-chatting about Nesta's sword name, and Bryce recognized the language as an old language word and how Bryce thinks that her star is a symbol of the Starborn. Nesta then compares Bryce to an Asteri with the star inside her versus inside them. Bryce explains that hers is just light, but the Asteri claim their powers are from holy stars inside themselves, but they can physically manipulate things, kill, and destroy with that light, and calls out how they are liars. So how can you trust what they say? Bryce asks about Truth Teller, then calls out how she knows he feels the swords singing to each other, and it gets worse when she is near. Nesta, to Azriel's dismay, agrees. Bryce then calls out what it's made of, iridium and ore from a fallen meteorite. Bryce repeats the prophecy about when knife and sword are reunited, so shall our people be, and that his knife is that knife. The subject shifts to Bryce's tattoo, how it was the same language as the Book of Breathings, but she doesn't know what it's called in her world. All she knows is it means through love, all is possible. They ask how her friend knew the language and why she couldn't just ask her about it. Bryce shares she's dead, and her murder mystery turned into something bigger. Nesta awkwardly changes the subject to art, and Bryce shares all it means is there was once joy in this world. A lot happens in this chapter. A lot.
Yes.
I want to talk about the 8-pointed star and where it shows up. When Bryce got her star, it was after she revealed her powers and closed the gates. She was marked with a star on her chest. It was nothing like when Nesta got hers. In Nesta's star situation, she made a bargain with Cassian. She went to train, and he owes her a favor. An 8-pointed star appeared on both their spines. Cassian also teaches the 8-pointed star, which is a Valkyrie move. We know the harp sat on top of a large rendering of an 8-point star, but that's a tale for later. Speaking of that 8-pointed star some more, we saw it before it was on Bryce. Ruhn, when showing Bryce a picture from the Royal Archives, showed her a picture where the illustration of the carved horn lifted to the lips of a helmeted Fae male was as pristine as it had been when inked millennia ago. Above the figure gleamed an 8-pointed star, the emblem of the Starborn. We didn't get more on that because they were looking for the Crystallos. We might as well mention when we saw the 8-pointed star in Throne of Glass. When Selena received Deanna's arrow on Yolmis, the High Priestess walked onto the stone platform and raised her hands above her head. The folds of her midnight blue gossamer robe fell around her, and her white hair was long and unbound. An 8-pointed star was tattooed upon her brow in a shade of blue that matched her gown, its sharp lines extending to her hairline. Welcome all, and may the blessings of the goddess and all her gods be upon you.
And I did say this before, but I'm going to put out there that I believe the 8-pointed star is more than just a symbol of Starborn. I think it's a symbol of the gods. Because the ancient Babylonians believed that an 8-pointed star represented the goddess Ishtar, or Irana, who was associated with the planet Venus. Her primary title is the Queen of Heaven. Ishtar was the goddess of love, sex, fertility, and war and justice. She embodied contradictory traits, ruling over sensuality, procreation, political power, storms, and battle, making her an important and revered goddess. When it comes to Venus, her astral emblem, the morning and evening star, reflecting her dual nature of promise and danger. Now, one thing about Ishtar is there's many myths of her taking over the domains of other deities, kind of giving the queen of many faces. Now, let's get back to Venus. The disappearance and reappearance of Venus in the sky symbolizes death and rebirth, leading to its association with the underworld journeys, which, with hell being such a point of focus in the series, it fits, especially since we have made the case for gods taking different forms in different worlds, i.e. Luna and Cece, Deanna, and Tog. So with Venus being the morning and evening star, I started looking back at our notes from House of Earth and Blood to see what I could find. Danica means morning star. So was Danica a former god reincarnated? Something to think about. And especially because we're about to hit something in a couple chapters that comes back to this. But I just wanted to point on when they talked about the Asteri's power and them talking about being holy stars inside themselves, they could for sure be lying because they're liars. But with them being born of the void, they truly could be made of a star from the void. So who's to say? Fucking Asteri. So it said, my sword blazed with light. The dagger shone with darkness. Both of them are crafted of the same black iridium, right? She jerked her chin to Azriel to the dagger at his side. One from a fallen meteorite. Both things come from the void, which is why they would be able to kill things also from the void. Like calls to like. Reminder, Asteri means star, Daglin means dark stranger, and Valg means choice. Just giving you that last thing.
When Bryce was looking at art at the end of this chapter, Bryce kept her eyes on the dancers, the stars, the lush lands, ignored the darkness beneath, and it immediately made my mind go to Calamai. Immediately.
I think so too. And like considering what they do for Calamai and getting the power back in lands, I just think Prythian is so suspicious in general.
It is a weird land, a very weird land. And why are the Asteri so interested in this one? Obviously, like there's so much power that feeds them, but like, is there more to it? Who's to say?
Yes. Chapter 13. Ethan finally got his meeting with the Vipe after making him wait for 5 hours, and he really wanted to know what she planned to do about Sabitch. She told him that Sabine is actually recovering and she isn't sure what she's going to do with Sigrid and Ethan. She says she wants him to fight, a private event, and if he wins, he'll get safe passage for him and his friends and Tharion's freedom. And she promised to give him a worthy opponent and ends with, "Make your brother proud." So, when describing Chthoni's statue, it's carved from black stone. In one arm, a goddess cradled an infant to her bare breast, in the other, an extended orb, Midgard, out in the room. Chthona, a birther of worlds. So, from what we just talked about with the mother, the cauldron, chaos, is Chthona one and the same? The dark mother? It's feeling a little chaosy. I love all of our different theories about who these people could be, because we've had a few.
But they all combine.
Yeah, they all combine, and I think that's the whole fucking point. This exchange caught my eye. Ethan is like, no more of your enthralling bullshit. The Vipe says, "I'm offended, Holstrom. It's a sacred bond amongst my kind." He tells her nothing is sacred to her. And then she lifts a finger and turns a statue of Luna towards him, the arrow now pointing his way. Now, you and I both believe Luna's Deanna. So I'm wondering what this little exchange means. Is it because he now has to fight and to be a hunter to get out of this bind? Is the Vipe Queen actually a god and has a relationship with these gods? It just feels like a very intentional detail, and I want to know why.
We need to know more about a lot of these characters. Like, we've met them, but we don't, like, there's just so much left unsaid.
And just with the whole reincarnation being talked about more and more, it makes you like,
She may have reincarnated.
who's to say? Lydia was trying to get out of going to the Stary dinner thing by saying that her cycle had started. She's just like us, you know? She's also trying to get out of banging Pollux. Once Pollux left, she used her burner phone to contact Ophian, telling them she needs all agents mobilized. The operator says that people have abandoned the cause. Lydia's like, "Cool, let me talk to command now." She had a plan, and she got them on board.
Pollux. He knew because he didn't like to fuck her when she was bleeding. She'd come to cherish her cycle. Pollux usually tormented someone else that week. And I wonder what is the STD situation in Valbara. Like, they prevent pregnancy, but clearly don't give a shit about parasites based on the Asteri and the water situation. So, like, what is the STD situation?
Maybe because they're like Fae, it just heals itself.
Oh, good point.
Sometimes I'm smart.
But what
Yeah.
about, like, if they canoodle with a human? Like, is it the same for, like, interspecies because it's, like, a weird foreign substance? There's just a lot of questions unanswered here.
Yeah, I think that maybe the humans have an STD problem.
Probably.
You know, like they got something going on. I mean, the White
too.
Raven, I feel like if you go into the White Raven and sit on the toilet, then you're gonna get an STD. That's just my thought.
Or high on something.
Yeah, yeah, because they probably use. So, just a little anecdote. Lydia says, "Still humid from Pollux's shower." usually so hot she wondered if he was trying to scald the evil from himself. Who else did that? Hunty boy.
Except
But
for Hunt
Pollux
for
is deep
himself. He burnt the evil off himself. Pollux does
down.
not.
Yes. No, Pollux is deep down evil. Vestriel continued on their journey, and Nesta specifically had some questions about the 8-pointed star. She admits that she had a magical 8-pointed star tattoo on her back that is now gone. And continues to explain the magic. The power of the bargain that caused that tattoo to appear chose the design. The design meant nothing to her, but she wants to know more. Nesta says that there are forces that sometimes guide us, and she has learned to listen, which is why she volunteered to follow Bryce. They got to an area with big-ass bones that they're unclear where they came from. Above the archway had glimmering stars around it with a male figure with his hand upraised in greeting. And before Bryce could look closely, the Middengard Wyrm came out of nowhere.
That's what she said.
I know.
Besta was meant to happen because Bryce teased we're obviously destined to be best friends, but Nesta didn't smile or laugh. But Besta was meant to happen. I don't know about Bestriel.
They could be a threesome.
A throuple.
Mm-hmm. You never know.
It said, I've been in the Fae realms long enough to know that there are forces that sometimes guide us, push us along. I've learned to let them and to listen. Big let them fans. Love Mel Robbins. Big fans in Prithian. But I feel like this is bigger foreshadowing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think that the Erd Mother Chaos Word Cauldron have a vested interest in Starborn. They may guide everyone along, but really want to make sure these gals and guys listen and they get special treatment, which I personally think all ties back to what we talked about. Twilight of the Gods, a big battle between Void's creations. Now the male with the upraised hand. Hi, Riderless. They did not see the old enemy who offered a hand through space and time. Like a fish to bait, they came, they opened the gates to us willingly. That's what she said. And they walked through them to Midgard at our invitation, leaving behind the world they knew.
It's the offering a hand through space and time. Time. That is how we believe that Valbara exists on the same place that the southern continent is, just fucking later. But they could still be happening at the same time because they just walked through space and time.
And the cauldron comes into play with frickin' the mother and Chaos because she took her little cauldron. And that's why we have that little island of Prithian.
She took her little cauldron. I just picture the mother like swinging it, skipping.
Like just pissed. Like takes her cauldron and she just dumps it out on this world that already existed post-Tog. And then it has all this magicalness in it. And that's how we have the island of Prithian.
I am thinking of Fantasia and Mickey Mouse with the buckets of water. Like, I'm just picturing, like, that is how all of this was created. We've come full circle.
Yes. Chaos was in Fantasia, for sure.
Chaos is Walt Disney.
He reincarnated. Okay.
Chapter 14. Bryce, Master Manipulator is more like her name, had gotten that worm to arrive thanks to ripping off her scabs continuously so she wouldn't stop bleeding and the worm would find them. Bryce fell back as Azriel and Nesta fought the worm and then took off. She knew that they could survive it. Bryce used Nesta and Azriel's light from their powers to lead her way. She decided she was better than what she had just done, and then she turned around. What she thought was rushing water was actually how the worm sounded moving through the caverns. Her starlight was not impressed with her because it was way harsh tie and devoid of color. She made her way back and saw Nesta sprawled all loosey-goosey on a rock. Bryce ran to do her a solid, and Nesta was actually awake and pissed. Azriel immediately had a hand on her throat, not sexually, and a knife on her back. Not his knife that he would play hide in the pickle with, but truth teller. Turns out Turns out the lured becomes a lurees because they are going to catch the Middengard Wyrm as a team, and Bryce is the bait.
I like that you didn't remember what you wrote. You didn't read ahead of the fact, and then you already made the joke, and it kept getting better. It was impressive.
You know, I just needed to laugh.
That's fair. I want to highlight Azrael's blue light. Now, the other times we see blue light in the Maasverse is the Eye of Elena, blue light. When the king struck Kale with his power, it was described as the darkness hit him, shattered him, obliterated him until there was nothing but light. Burning blue light. Warm and welcoming. When Brandon shows up, he has a glimmer of blue light around him. Aylin's power was described as glowing with blue light of her flame, so more of the flame side of it, not the white power, to be clear. The Viper Queen's Fae bodyguard's blades glowed with a blue light. Hypaxia's body shimmered with a pale blue light when she was fighting off the Underking being summoned. Now, what do all these powers have in common? Brandon, Aylin, and Elena are all obviously related. The Fae bodyguards, maybe a descendant, but what of Az? I mean, he is a part Illyrian, which was made of from the Daglin, but what else?
Maybe what we're missing from this entire story is Titans, aka giants. And maybe that's what the blue light is. Who's to say? I don't believe that. That is a rogue thought. Just to clarify.
But like with the blue light, it's like talking about death in some ways, like the underworld. So all the talk about Az being related to the underworld, very possible.
Unclear.
Mm-hmm.
Let's chat the Middengard Wyrm lore. A lot of people compare it to Jormungand, also called the Midgard Serpent, which is a snake or dragon who lives in the ocean that surrounds Midgard, thanks to Odin throwing him there to try and drown him. Joke's on him because he grew so enormous that his body formed a circle around the entirety of Midgard. He's the middle of three children of Loki and the giantess and Angerboda. Not sure how to say that one. But truly no wonder this worm is pissed. It's a middle child acting out for attention.
You solved the case.
That's it. Book's done.
To go a little deep, that's what she said, on this Jormungand lore. So as Kai said that he is the middle child, let's talk about his siblings. Fenrir, the wolf. Yes, also known as Fenris in other mythologies. He breaks free of his chains at Ragnarok and kills Odin, but is then killed by his son, Thor. There is a prophecy that the children of Loki would cause the gods trouble, so Odin took the kidlets and split them apart. So the other sibling is Hel with one L, the queen of the underrealm. The entity of Hel is depicted as half beautiful woman and half blue. Keep in mind, blue light that we just talked about. But she was thrown in the realm of the dead, icy Niflheimen, so Hel being cold tracks. I said hymen, that's not the word. And then back to Jormungand, who was killed by Thor. But he encircled the whole world. It makes you wonder if the Middengard Wyrm is in fact a world walker and is able to go between the realms since he encircles the world. Maybe it would be a world slitherer, actually, not a world walker.
Not completely impossible because we know that throughout the cave system in Prithian, it can lead you to other places. And then you have the northern and southern rift, which lead you to other places. So I don't think that that's crazy or far-fetched. Very likely.
And we know that Az tells us that nobody looked under Ramiel. Like, if there are cave systems there, we know the other two mountains have them. Who's to say that Ramiel doesn't?
Also,
So maybe,
why? Like,
yeah,
why did nobody ever check? Which, totally off topic, I think Rhys knows more than he's let any of us know. Maybe, like, there's been something that's made him forget it, but I think he has known about a lot of this before.
I think so too, because even just his mom made sure that he was really into his studies. The fact that he created his own orrery himself he knows a lot more. He knows of the different worlds. He was able to slow down Aelin. And yes, that kind of made him a little off afterwards, but I think that's because he knows so much more than anyone else does.
He's hiding something from us. And that doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad thing or makes him evil or bad or anything. He's just hiding something from us. Maybe it's to protect him. Who's to say?
And with my theory that I believe that Rhys has been visited by the princes of hell in his nightmares, but he might just not know that they're a prince of hell. I think he's communicating with other people that are giving him information, or entities, I should say.
What if he was just a prince of hell that escaped?
We don't know who the first ones are, and we still have one missing one. Now, in the dark, her starlight silvered the walls, casting the world into stark relief. This is giving what the weaver created in that tapestry, which she called the void. She says has to create this because if she doesn't, there would be no hope, capital H, shining in the void, capital V. Now, the void is dark and black, so dark and void of color, but hope is silver, iridescence, glittering to create. Now, if we look at Apollyon and the rest of the creatures, Daddy the void as complete darkness. His opposite, his bride, his dam, aka Apollyon's madre, is chaos. Chaos is hope. Chaos is light. Chaos, I believe, is what where the starborn power originates, and she's the creator, the mother, the hope, the fate.
On board.
Thanks.
Bryce hung out and that big ass worm popped out. Azriel shot some blue lights out that pierced its dark, wet skin and vanished. Nesta's turn, she used her silver fire power and shot it into its side, and then her fire also vanished. Nesta's like, it ate my power. Azriel's like, not possible, girlfriend, but it did. And then the worm came back for more. What else ate power? Immediately, my mind goes to Wordstone. In chapter 72, I mentioned when Selena touched the Wordstone, a shock went through her head pounding so badly she gagged. The eye of Elena gave a pulse of blue light that quickly died, as if the light itself had been sucked toward the stone and devoured. And you know, the Star Sword's hilt is described as devouring first light in chapter 6 of House of Earth and Blood. Apollyon is also described as devouring a seventh Asteri, and is also known as the Star Eater. Is a star not a form of power? Has Apollyon not eaten power itself as well? Is Apollyon a power people eater? So does the worm hail from Midgard or somewhere else?
I do think the SGM took her inspo from Jormungand.
Jormungand?
And I think it's from the void. Because if it's like Loki's child, allegedly, which also is weird. Why do you have a wolf, a worm, and like a princess of hell? That's his children.
Why not?
I don't know. All my children look the same, so I don't get it.
I look like my kid's nanny, so I not even once thought about like the kids were different. Azriel had them airborne and they needed a plan. Bryce was ready to go with her sword, but Nesta had other plans. It got a little breezy and Nesta popped on a mask. Bryce's blood chilled as Nesta opened her silver flaming eyes. Azriel is not impressed. In Bryce's head, a voice came on the intercom, ancient and bone dry, saying, "Mortal, you are mortal and you shall die. Memento mori, memento," and was cut off when the earth shook. Nesta reanimated a big-ass skeleton, and it took a bite of the worm and shook it like a dog. Azriel was pulling Bryce away and shielded her from the battle. I immediately shook him like a dog.
Like a dog.
The ancient bone-dry voice reminds me of Farrah's encounter with the bogey. My blood froze as a creeping, leeching cold lurched by. Oh, like a wind? I couldn't see anything, just a vague shimmering in the corner of my vision, but my horse stiffened beneath me. Then, the cold thing whispered past, circling. I could see nothing, but I could feel it. And in the back of my mind, an ancient, hollow voice whispered, "I will grind your bones between my claws. I will drink your marrow. I will feast on your flesh. I am what you fear and what you dread. Look at me, look at me." And this is how Farrah described the Surreal's voice at one point as well. But an ancient, rasping voice asked behind me, "Have you come to kill me or beg for my help?" Once again, Farrah Archeron. All these void beings just overlapping.
I know, and now I'm like, with the Memento Mori coming from, like, why is that written on Crescent City? Like, who lives there? The Vibe Queen, who is also described as ancient?
The word ancient, it's thrown around and sometimes it has a capital and sometimes it doesn't.
And yeah, but anytime the word ancient's there, I'm like, especially if it's like an interesting character.
SJM in her Call Her Daddy interview said like the things just like come to her, but I think she's a fucking liar. I think that she does her research and does plan some things do come naturally, but I think she does plan a lot of this out, that crazy gal.
I think she does too. I think it's one of those things where she has probably researched so much that it feels like a subconscious thing while she's creating where she's not even meaning to, but like she already did the work. So that's why
Yeah.
it's coming out. And that's not to say first is writing it. She goes back and edits and adds Easter eggs. That's what she does. Like, so when people are like, don't look too far into it, no, I'm going to.
And if we do, let us have fun with it. It's not that deep.
Well, she also makes the point of like certain phrases that she'll reuse because they're all connected. So it's like, yeah, we do look into things a little too far sometimes, but like, it's fun. And
Yeah.
we're right.
Even if she never confirms it, we are.
Mhm.
Nesta had some hair drifting on a phantom breeze, glowing with a silver fire. She was commanding the bone creature to alligator death roll the worm. Bryce was worried for her new friend, but Azrael's like, she's cool, no stressies, because Nesta took her sword and stuck it in the head of the worm. The worm was dead, and immediately Az was like, take that thing off. Cassian is waiting to dick you down. Listed the ones that she loved, and the mask came off. He thanked the mother, and they kept walking. We never get a blood color of the worm, and I think that that is deliberate, so we cannot tell its place of origin.
I 100% agree.
I looked back in ACOTAR. I looked all over this fucking book.
I did
No
actually
worm blood.
read that comment from you. And because I was like, once you said that, I'm like, I know she researched it. I was like, but it's black blood, right?
It has to be.
It
And
has
it's
to
hard
be.
to tell because, like, when Feyre, they're in a dark cave. And so you can't necessarily see the blood color. Bryce already has blood on her from herself. And, there's got to be mud because she fell. And then Feyre
yeah.
was covered in worm shit and mud. And so
Yeah.
it would be hard to tell the worm's blood color anyway.
Ugh, gross. So disgusting. But I agree. And I also think, along with Rhys, Az knows way more about the world than he lets on. When he is able to get Nesta back from her death gal trance, who does he thank? Thank the mother. Thank the mother. I think he is, in fact, thanking the correct person.
They are tied to her in more ways than we know.
Well, and if you think about it, he talks to the shadows. The shadows probably know a lot too.
Yeah, he's a secret keeper. I'm surprised he doesn't have big hair.
Who's to say? What if he has like a lot of volume?
He's got like what are they, like a bouffant? Like huge.
Yes. Yeah, like Jimmy
Neutron.
Jimmy Neutron hair.
Stop. Azrael, oh my god, no. Azrael
so
is Jimmy
beautiful.
Neutron with Crocs.
I'm sorry. Everyone, we're sorry. I'm really sorry.
In the same chapter, we learn Mark used his lawyer get out of jail free card to peace out from the meat market, and Ethan is sharing that the Vipe offered him a fight, which he accepted all willy-nilly, but is not sure with who. Everyone is letting him know he fucked up and are peer pressuring him to drink to take the edge off. I get Ethan was desperate to help his friends, but he needs to be a little more objective and ask more questions before he makes any decision. Maybe his celestial role in all of this is a Gemini because he's impulsive with no thoughts on consequences.
I think you could be onto something there. He's a Gemini for sure. And yeah, I usually get along with Geminis though, but
Don't think you would with Ethan.
no. Chapter 15. Bryce was still shooketh from that whole ordeal, but she still was like, hey guys, my bee. They're like, yeah, you are a royal pain in the ass, but we will see this thing through. Bryce is like, wait a sec. You knew I was going through the great? And they're like, Rhys guessed as much. And then we were sent to go after you and forced your hand in all this. Bryce asks if it's because of her tattoo. She's like, well, actually, I've seen that star before, and it was in no place good. They continued walking, but they had to stop. There was a large chasm ahead, and guess where Bryce's starlight glowed? Yeah, straight across the chasm. Ruhn stopped being a baby back bitch and contacted Lydia to pass along intel. Bryce didn't make it to hell and wanted you and the command to know. Lydia tried easing his worries about Bryce by telling him that she's not dead because Rhysand and his mystics are all hunting for her. He knows she's alive somewhere else, and that location he thinks will make a difference, and he's real scared. I ain't never scared. 1,000 mystics are all searching for her. Lydia tells him she's doing what she can to help him, and his baby back bitch attitude came right on back, and he was like, Yopia, you're dead to me.
The way that Ruhn just blocks Lydia from the conversation just drives home the point that men need to learn how to deal with their emotions better. Like, get a fucking therapist.
It's like
So that's
pathetic, really.
Chapter 16. The endless chasm is too narrow for Azriel to fly and too far for any of them to jump. She needs Azriel to charge her up, but he is not exactly trusting. Nesta then brings out Bryce's phone to make sure she doesn't bail on them. He ends up doing it, and so she winnows, aka teleports them to the tunnel mouth. The sword and dagger start singing and being weird again, and singing to her, so Azriel stepped away.
Endless chasm. No bridge this time. Only a narrow, endless drop. Just want to mention, part 1 of this book is in fact called The Drop. When Bryce makes the drop in book 1 and is about to make the ascent, there is an endless ocean above her, and above that, an entire world full of distant, twinkling stars. Now, when she tried to go to hell, she came to Tharion, specifically the Night Court, a world, some might say, of twinkling lights. Just a theory. But there is a runway. Its end was a free fall into eternal darkness. Oh, no, hold on. Oh. And what do they call the water? A chasm. What is the 5th level of hell? Chasm. Adis is in charge of, who I personally believe Bryce is related to. I believe SJM is very freaking intentional with her writing, and we know in mythology the levels of hell are separated by bodies of water. And they're under a mountain. I don't know. There's a lot to think about here. I want so much more information. Now this, the alien strangeness of the power when referring to Azriel charging her up. Weird. Even Hunts didn't feel like this, undiluted, like 100% liquor proof. So we know that Hunt is a demon test tube baby, and if his power doesn't feel this undiluted, what does that mean for Azriel? We talked about his blue light earlier. What is Azriel and where does he come from?
I wonder how, like, Cassian's power would feel in comparison to Azriel's. Obviously, Rhys's would be, like, off the charts.
Right. But, yeah, I want to know.
I want her to be flooded with so many men's powers.
What a power whore, if you think about it.
She's like, yes, insert your power in me. They get to some art of the infamous cauldron. Azriel and Nesta are appalled that Bryce doesn't know the story of it. All life came and comes from it, that's what she said. The mother poured it into this world, and from it, life blossomed. That is real and not a myth, since that is how Nesta was turned High Fae. It's sentient and raw power. Bryce pointed out she noticed how the mask felt like death incarnate. Nesta was like, bingo, that's what it does. Nesta explains that the mask is one of 3 objects of catastrophic power made, capital M, by the cauldron, aka the dread trove. Since Nesta was made by the cauldron, she can wield those objects. They're unclear if Bryce's tattoo was made since the ink had to come from the world. The horn did come from there. It had been brought to Middengard by Thea and Peleus. And Peleus. She wondered if it too had been forged by the cauldron.
The carving shows the cauldron perched atop what seems to be a barren mountain with 3 stars above it. As says, that's Ramiel, a mountain sacred to the Illyrians. Now, a little refresher is the warrior god Analius, who was the first Illyrian, fought against the Daglin on Ramiel. He ended up dying there. Cassian is often said to fight like him. Now, Enalius was most likely inspired by the Greek war deity Enalius, I didn't say it right, who is potentially Eris, one of the 12 Olympians. If you have been around with us for any amount of time, you know there are often many different Greek mythologies and variations. Now, back to Ramiel. That's where the blood rite takes place in honor of Enalius. And just want to remind you all, there is an onyx monolith at the top of Ramiel, which isn't suspicious at all. The cauldron in general is just interesting to me. I mean, we know that life comes from it. The mother poured in the world and life blossoms, which it really makes you wonder what the mother chaos poured into the cauldron. We know the magic comes from the land. Each High Lord is chosen by magic and has a magical connection to that land. We know that Nesta took more than she should have from the cauldron. There have been times where it seems like another god almost inhabits her. So the question is, what exactly did the mother put in that cauldron? Time-wise, it should be after Aelin banished the gods. Did Chaos Mother put the gods in the cauldron? I mean, the cauldron is sentient.
That's
Look
like
from
the container, cauldron
yeah,
container. Just put a lid on that
just put
bitch.
in there. Yeah, that vat of life. That's where the gods went in there. Rogue, but
God soup.
god soup.
Bryce talks about how Solus is their sun god, Chthona his mate and earth goddess, Luna is his sister, the moon, and Ogetis is Chthonus' jealous sister in the sea, while Erd, the weaver of fate or destiny, guides all. Nesta is like, maybe the cauldron and Erd are one. Who's to say? Pretty sure she's a big fan of this podcast. It gets real philosophical when Bryce wonders what happened to the gods of the original world when their people crossed into Midgard. Did they follow them? Was Erd or Luna there with Bryce, or did she have no gods? Where do souls go? Azrael shares that they return to the mother, where they rest in joy within her heart until she finds another purpose for them, another life or world to live in. And it sounds similar to what I was talking about with like Summerlands in the prologue and Avellan's ties to Avalon and how there is a powerful witch who lives in Avalon. And in the Summerlands, Wiccan tradition says we wait there until it is time for our souls to return in another physical body. And then we can move on to our next lifetime. Some souls may be finished incarnating and they stay in the Summerland to guide newly arriving souls through the transition.
When I read that, I instantly thought about what you told us with the Summerland, and like she didn't pick that name willy-nilly. There was a reason for it. And I want to go back to people saying that Cassian fights like Enalius. What if Cass is him reincarnated? The mother found use for him and sent him back to try and defeat the enemy once again. Enalius died at the top of Ramiel, defending it with his guts hanging out. Now, I just want to remind you of a scene in ACOTAR that had everyone freaking out. It'll take more than that to kill me, Cassian said with a smirk that didn't meet his eyes. Elaine says only to Cassian, no, it will not. So maybe it wasn't necessarily a vision for Cassian, but Elaine could see what had already happened to Nelius, and he is in fact him reincarnated. We know very little about her powers, and what if she's capable of seeing stuff in a past life?
She's a seer, and if she came from the college, if she came from the cauldron, who's to say that it didn't give her knowledge with the power because it loved her so?
I mean, I don't think it's a coincidence about the guts hanging out. That's how he died, and that happening to Cass, them making the comparisons to his fighting style all the time. Like now with all this reincarnation talk and as specifically saying it, I feel like it's very possible.
And if not reincarnated, maybe the same lineage for sure.
Or like how Hellas watched over Lorcan, maybe it's a similar vein. I mean, Anelius was known as, like I said earlier, about potential coming from mythologic, like god deity. Maybe he's watching over Cass, but I don't know. The talk of reincarnation has gotten me like,
once again, I don't think it's impossible, especially since I brought it up, but it either has to be that or genetics. Bryce explained the Bone Quarter and other quiet realms, the Underking and the sailings, the black boats tipping or making it to shore, the death marks that could purchase passage, and then she explained the Second Light, the meat grinder of souls that churn their lingering energy into more food for the Asteri. Bryce then shares that she bargained her soul for Danica's, so she's unsure of what happens when she dies. Nesta gives Bryce her phone back, so Bryce showed her Hunt. Azrael was shocked that Hunt has wings. Then Nesta asks how the phone works because it's driving them all crazy. Bryce is trying to explain the smartphone to Prithian pals, but she barely knows how it works. Then Bryce is able to bond with Nesta over her music. She blows her mind with the amount of songs it can hold. She said it's the good kind of tech, while guns are the bad kind. They arrive at their destination, a metal wall 30 feet high and 30 feet wide at least, with a colossal 8-pointed star in its center. Bryce put a hand on the lowest spike of the star, and nothing happened at first. So Nesta scoffed, but then something happened. The spikes of the star began to expand and contract. Gears shifted, locks open, and then a triangle door slid open, like Bryce's legs for Hunt.
Good for her. And I don't know why, but like when reading this, I believe that Azrael would have been a Microsoft Zune listener. And he would also be an Android user. Don't ask me why, but it's just a very intense feeling that I have.
He would be so hipster about his fucking Google phone, just like my husband is. So obnoxious. My Google phone, I don't do an iPhone. Like, that would be Azrael, but like less annoying.
And he would let everyone know that no, he has a Zune. He doesn't have an iPod. Like, I just see that for him.
Is Azrael the original hipster?
Yes. Well, with SJM saying while writing the next book, she's thinking about the Batman with Robert Pattinson, which is like Nirvana Batman. She's using as a Zune to write. It
He's
will be
in his
his.
grunge phase. He lives in
Mhm.
Seattle in the 90s, for sure.
Mhm.
Spot on. You nailed it. He's got a Zune. He's a Zune guy.
Mhm. Astute. Thanks for giggling through our journey with us today. We have new episodes every Tuesday, unless my kids are sick. Join us next week as we get into chapter 17 through 24.
Make sure you follow us on social media for our latest updates, series, and more new book gooping. Don't forget to hit subscribe and give us a review wherever you listen. All links are in our info. You giggling gal pals. We'll see you next week, unless Blakely's kids are sick.
Woo!